Hi, this is Christina with the Stage Nature Center. I'm a naturalist here, and I'm coming to you today live from the Stage Nature Center, where I am working to take care of our animals that live here and still need care even during these difficult times. I'm not sure if anybody has signed in yet. I haven't seen anything pop up. So if anybody has joined us yet, if you could let me know that the video feed and the sound is working, that would be great. I'm not sure here. I'm using a different iPad today, so let's see. Has anybody joined us yet? I see a couple people. Looks like I have a couple people joining us. I'll say my name again. I'm Christina with the Stage Nature Center. I'm coming to you live here at the Stage Nature Center in Troy, Michigan. And I'm here today to I'm here taking care of the animals that live here with us that still need our care, even during these times of social distancing. So again, if somebody could just maybe put a comment on there, just let me know that the sound is working okay and that the video is working okay. I just want to make sure that everything is good. So if somebody wouldn't mind leaving a comment to let me know. Hello, I see a few people checking in here. Is the sound working okay? I know there's a little bit of a delay, I think, between me talking and you guys and what you're seeing. Everything is good. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Like I said, I'm here live at the Stage Nature Center. Thank you. Before we meet our animal today, one of our animal ambassadors here at the Nature Center, I wanted to tell you a little bit about what's going on right now. As if you've already tuned in to another one of our videos, you may know that the Stage Nature Center building is currently closed. I am here taking care of the live animals that live here. The trails are open dawn to dusk, so you are welcome to come out and enjoy being outside. Today's a beautiful day, which is actually why I'm in a different space from the past live video feeds, because it's too bright outside for the window to be behind me today, which is amazing. It's a nice, wonderful, beautiful sunny day outside. If you do come out to enjoy the trails, just please be sure to be safe, practice social distancing, and make sure that you're giving yourself enough space. You know, if you're on the trails and people are walking by you, you're welcome to walk off the trail a little bit to keep that space. Normally we tell people not to go off the trails, but during this time, in order for you to be safe, if you need to go off the trail a little bit to keep space between you, please do so. While of course being careful where you step, because we don't want to damage any wildlife. As I've mentioned before, we aren't able to do programs right now, as are a lot of places. So we are a nonprofit organization, and a lot of our funds come from our programs. So since we aren't doing any programs right now, we are having a little bit more difficulty with funding, like a lot of people are. It's a very difficult situation for a lot of people. If you have it in your means to give us a donation today, you can donate here on Facebook, or you can go to our website and donate. Any little bit amount always helps, so we appreciate your support. So without further ado, I've got our friend here in my hand that we're going to be meeting today. Bring her up to the video camera. This is Sammie, and she is a garter snake, a very common species here in Michigan. She's actually feeling just kind of pretty comfortable in my hand right now. I think she's enjoying my warmth. So she is one of our animal ambassadors here at the Stage Nature Center. And she has been with us since 2014. She was actually quite a bit smaller when she first came to us. She's kind of wrapped up right now, so it's a little bit difficult. Let me see if I can show you here her size a little bit better. There we go. And actually, when Sammie first came to us, she would not let us hold her like this. Sammie was quite a bit smaller. We don't know exactly her age, but she was probably at least half the size that she is now. So she was quite a bit smaller and very, very shy. We have worked a lot with her over the years and spent a lot of time with her to help her feel more comfortable around us. But for the first couple years that she was here, she would slither away from us as fast as she could, or she would do one of those wonderful defense mechanisms that some snakes have, and she would musk us. So it's a little fluid that they release, and it smells really, really strong for that tiny amount of fluid that they have, and that's to scare other animals away. Sammie doesn't really do that anymore. We have worked enough with her that now she is so incredibly calm and relaxed with us. Garter snakes in general are shy, and they are pretty relaxed snakes. Like I said, they're probably the most common snake in Michigan. And they're pretty harmless. They can get bigger than this. Adults can be about 2 to 4 feet, and the females are typically larger than the males. So a very common species here. Now here in Michigan, we have 18 species of snakes. In the world, there's about 2,900 species of snakes, and we have 18 here in Michigan. And only one of those 18 snake species that we have here in Michigan are venomous. So it's called the Massasauga rattlesnake, and this is not the Massasauga rattlesnake. The Massasauga rattlesnake does have a rattle on the end of its tail, like rattlesnakes do, and they do have venom. So it's not a snake that you want to be bitten by, and there are some ways that you can tell them apart from snakes like this garter snake. Massasauga rattlesnakes do have the diamond shape or cat-like eyes. Non-venomous snakes like Sammie here, let me see if I can get her close up to the camera so you can see her. Let's see. Sammie here has roundish pupils, whereas venomous snakes have cat-like eyes. Now, not necessarily that you want to get close enough to a venomous snake to be able to tell, but sometimes you can tell just by looking at them from a distance that their eyes look different. So that's one way to tell the Massasauga rattlesnake. Let me put Sammie down for a minute. I have something I want to show you. So I said that there are 18 species of snakes here in Michigan. This is a wonderful poster by the Department of Natural Resources to show you these different species that we have here in Michigan. And since we're talking about the Massasauga rattlesnake, that is this one right there. That's what that one looks like. Now, even though the Massasauga rattlesnake is venomous and you don't want to be bit by one, they are pretty rare. In fact, they're a species of special concern. They do like to live in grassland areas, upland grassland areas. So their habitat is very limited. And as long as you're watching where you're stepping, you're not likely to come across one. But if you're in their habitat or you're somewhere where you know that they live, then just watch your feet when you're walking the ground. But they are also very shy. So, they're actually a really neat snake. So you just want to be careful when they're walking through their habitat. So, like I said, we have 18 species here in Michigan, and there's about 2,900 species in the world. Sammie is pretty small compared to the largest species in the world. The largest species in the world is the green anaconda, and that can be 20 to 30 feet long and up to 550 pounds. Sammie's never going to get that size. In fact, we don't have any snakes here in Michigan that are going to come near that size. The green anaconda has been found in South America. Generally, you're going to find these much larger snakes in warmer climates where it's easier for them to grow large, eat a lot of food. So you're not going to see them here. Our largest snake in Michigan is called the black rat snake, and they can be about 3 to 8 feet long. So they can get bigger than this guy, but just like garter snakes, black rat snakes are also pretty docile. They're very calm snakes, and they're not going to do much harm. If you're trying to pick it up, they might bite you. Like I always say, anything that has a mouth and has teeth can bite. So if you're trying to mess with it and they can't tell you to leave them alone, they might bite. And if you get bit by a snake that's not venomous, the most important thing is to make sure that that wound is clean. So you want to make sure you clean it really well, put some antibiotics on it to keep germs from growing in those wounds. And those are the most important things. So let's go back to snakes in general. Snakes are reptiles. So Sammie here is cold-blooded. Doesn't mean that she is cold all of the time. Cold-blooded means that they cannot make their own body heat. So they're usually the temperature of their surroundings. If it's 80 degrees outside and they're laying out in the sun, their body's probably going to be about that temperature. If it's 20 degrees outside and they don't have a way to keep themselves warm, then their body temperature is going to be the same. That's why a lot of our snakes here in Michigan during the wintertime go and hide underground underneath thick leaves where they can hibernate for the winter. They can slow down their metabolism so they don't have to eat. Right now, as it's warming up, we might start seeing snakes. In fact, I've seen some people posting online about these snakes coming out of the ground, and that's because it's starting to warm up and they know that, and so they're coming out and they're getting ready to start eating again. So snakes are different from other reptiles in that they don't have legs. So you can see here, Sammie doesn't have legs. And in just a little bit, I'm going to put Sammie in a little play area where she's going to have a chance to move around and we can watch her move. But again, they don't have legs. They do have very strong muscles that are very good at letting them move around. They're very good at moving laterally, not necessarily great at moving horizontally. Now, garter snakes are not necessarily considered tree snakes. You might find them in some bushes, but snakes that do move through the trees actually have vertebrae that will lock together to help them kind of bridge themselves between branches. So that's one specialization that tree snakes have. So snakes also, they lack eyelids, so you're not going to see them blink. They don't have ears like we do. They do have, they do sense vibrations to help them figure out where things are. And one of the main ways that they figure out what's going on around them, you can see Sammie doing it right now, is by that tongue. So you can see her flipping her tongue out a lot, and she is trying to get a good idea of what's going on around her. And that tongue is forked at the end. So she's just tasting the air, and there's a special organ in their mouth that takes that, I'm sorry, not special organ. She's a special organ in the mouth that takes what she's sensing with her tongue and sends that to her brain to tell her what's going on around her. So another thing that's pretty amazing about snakes is their ribs. Some people think that snakes don't have a skeleton like we do because of the way they look. So some people think that they don't have a backbone like we do, but they do. They do have a vertebrae. They do have vertebrae, and they have a spine. And actually, I'm going to put her down again here so I can show you something. Let's see here. This is the skeleton of a snake. And actually, snakes have about 200 to 400 pairs of ribs connected to muscles and those large belly scales. And that helps them move. I'm going to bring it up here a little bit closer so you can see all of those ribs. You can see the skull here at the end. It looks pretty tiny compared to the rest of it. And that's kind of what their skeleton looks like. All right. So, oh, I forgot to mention that if you do have questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. I'll probably start answering questions here in just a little bit. And if I don't get to your question, I will go back later and go through the comments and put those questions up. I still have to go back through the other two posts, which I will be doing probably tomorrow, and answering those other questions as well. So here's Sammie. Get back to Sammie here so you can see her. Now, typically reptiles give birth to eggs. Most reptiles do, although there are some that give birth to live young, and garter snakes are one of those. So of the 18 snakes that we have here in Michigan, 10 species are actually live bearing, whereas 8 of them lay eggs. Like I said, garter snakes are one of those that give birth to live young. And they'll give birth to between 60 to 50 young in mid to late summer. That's quite a few snakes. And typically the parents don't stay around for them to take care of them once they're born. So I see somebody said, I saw a snake at my school. Oh, and your birthday is in August. Well, happy early birthday, in case we don't see you in August. And the snakes are all around us. So it's really neat that you got to see one. And sometimes we don't even really notice that they're there, because a lot of times they're just kind of hanging out, sitting nice and still. They do blend in very well. And really, if you see a snake, it's not too much to be afraid of. And they're very helpful because they do eat things that we don't want. They'll eat things like bugs. They'll eat rodents, which I know a lot of us don't like. Last week, on Tuesday, we learned about rats and rodents and how important they are to the food chain. So it's all connected. And snakes are one of those that do eat rodents. So let's see, what else? These snakes are mostly found in fields, marshes, parks, backyards. They're very, very common. So a lot of people are going to see garter snakes around their house. Somebody said, do you have any other snakes at the Nature Center? We do. We have a little snake called a brown snake. I'm not bringing him out because he's very shy. And brown snakes are not one of those that you can, are not as easy to get to calm down and holding them like this garter snake. So our brown snake actually did just shed yesterday. And it is getting quite a bit bigger, but it's pretty small. It's very shy. It likes to hide in the plants. So when we do reopen, I encourage you to come look at its exhibit. It's actually a lot of fun to see if you can find it. So when you do come, you can see if you can find our brown snake. But that is the other snake that we currently have. Now, I just mentioned the shedding. Actually, let me show you one of Sammie's sheds. So this was a shed that she gave us not too long ago. So, and I'm going to put her back down again. Since snakes are reptiles, they have scales, and as they grow, they shed those scales to allow them to keep growing. And one way you can tell if a snake is healthy is when they shed. If they can shed their whole body in one nice piece like this, that's usually a pretty good sign that they're nice and healthy. What's really neat is when they have a good shed. Let me show this to you here if I can without breaking it, because it's very delicate. When they have a good shed, sometimes you can see their head, and actually you can see where those two eyes are right there. So their eyes, they don't have eyelids, but they do have a protective membrane across their eyes that's transparent. And so when they shed, that comes off with it. And it's actually really neat to see a snake in the process of shedding. You'll see them using their muscles to try to wiggle their way out. They're also very vulnerable during that time. So sometimes snakes, if they start acting a little bit more shy and they stop eating, it's because they might be getting ready to shed. Another way you can tell that they're getting ready to shed is because those eyes will turn a little bit grayish as those scales are getting ready to come off. So they can't see as well either. So they become very shy during that time period and a little bit more cautious. So like I said, this was one of her more recent sheds. I'd say she's probably at about 2 feet or a little bit more now. All right. I thought I saw a question pop up that I think I'll try to answer. Let's see. Oh, whether or not we have venomous snakes in Oakland County. We do have the Massasauga rattlesnake. They're not very common, and they like grassland areas. They also like to hibernate in wetter areas, and they're very, very shy. So as I mentioned earlier, when you're walking, you just want to make sure that you're keeping an eye on the ground, keeping an eye out where you're stepping, but they are very shy snakes. And just make sure you keep an eye out where they are. How long does it take to shed a skin? It depends, again, on how healthy they are, how maybe moist their body is. If it's dry, sometimes it doesn't come off as well. So usually when Sammie sheds, it can be a couple hours from when she starts shedding. Sometimes there have been snakes that you'll see the next day they still have pieces on their body. It just depends on, again, the humidity in the environment, how healthy they are, how easily they're able to kind of wiggle out of that shed. They do want to try to do it as quickly as possible because they are more vulnerable when they're doing that. I'm going to bring Sammie back out here so you can see her again. So a lot of people think, she's very relaxed right now. A lot of people think that snakes can dislocate their jaws, and that's not quite true. They do have really flexible ligaments in their jaws. So they have flexible ligaments right here where the two jaws connect together, and in front on the chin here they have flexible ligaments here. So they can swallow something that's twice the size of their head. And when they're swallowing something twice the size of their head, those jaws can open up. Those ligaments let them stretch. And they can open up, and that's how they're able to swallow something really, really big. So they don't dislocate, but those jaws open up really wide, and that's how they're able to swallow something pretty big. So Nora wants to know if snakes make good pets. So they can. I will say that reptiles and amphibians in Michigan, most species are protected, which means that it's against the law to just go outside and pick one up and bring it in as a pet. In fact, it's against the law to shoot snakes here in Michigan. And that's because if we didn't do that, they would have troubles and so many people want to kill them. Or they bring them in to show people. So there are laws that protect them. We have to have special permits here to have any native species of snakes and amphibians. Most amphibians, you have to have a special permit as well. Now there are non-native species that you're allowed to get as pets, and what I'll say is a few things about this. Snakes can make good pets. You want to do your research before you get one as a pet. A lot of problems are that people don't really learn how big they're going to get, how much they're going to eat, or how long they live for. You know, some snakes can live 20 years, and some snakes get really big. One of the most common snakes that you're going to see in the pet trade are things like pythons or boa constrictors. And some of these species, they keep growing as long as they're getting food. And what happens is that eventually a person realizes, oh my goodness, I cannot take care of this big snake in my house anymore, or I can't feed this snake anymore. And then they have to try to find a new home for it, or they do what we don't want people to do, and they put them out in the wild. And that is definitely something you don't want to do for a variety of reasons. That animal probably might not survive as well, especially non-native species here in Michigan. And the other problem is when you put something that is not a native species, which means that they are from that area, they've lived there for many, many years, they are naturalized there. If they're not one of those native species and they come from somewhere else, and you put them out in the wild, if they do very well, they can start to take over. Kind of like if you've heard down in the Florida Everglades of the pythons that have become a big problem down there. The pythons are even eating things like alligators, deer, a lot of birds that live down there. So a lot of times we don't think about these things when we're releasing animals, but they can become a big problem for the environment. And then that usually ends up in their death. A lot of times, in order to control these species, like they're doing in Florida now, they're hunting them. And so it's unfortunate when that happens because it's not quite their fault. Not really at all, actually. So before you get something as a pet, you need to make sure you do your research to know that you can take care of it for the long term, that it's not going to get too big. If you get a snake as a pet, it's also important to do your research because they are reptiles, so they do need some special accommodations to keep their bodies warm. And they don't eat dog food. They don't eat pellet food. You have to feed them things like worms or mice, We do feed Sammie here, now that she's getting bigger, we feed her baby mice. So a lot of people don't like feeding those animals those kind of things. So that's also something to think about, is that when you get something like a snake, can you handle feeding it what it needs to be fed? So if you like these kind of animals, as you can see, Sammie is very calm, and she will just kind of hang out with us, then it might be okay. But I always, a lot of caution in telling people to get snakes and other animals as pets that take different care than just a dog and a cat. So make sure you do your research. Sorry, that was a long answer, but it's a very important question, actually. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I missed any questions. And I can't see everybody's comments on the screen here. So if I missed a question, then I will go back later and put those answers in the comments. Do they drink something? Yes, they do. They do drink water. So we have a water bowl in Sammie's enclosure that she can get into to help her keep her body nice and moist, especially when she's shedding, but she'll also drink from it too. And she'll drink using that tongue. How much time does Sammie spend sleeping every day? That is a great question. And that's a hard question, actually, too. I'm not 100% sure how much time she spends sleeping. I would have to probably track her heart rate because, like I said, they don't have eyelids like we do. And so she could be curled up, but she could be awake, and it's just hard to tell. So I'm not 100% sure how much time she spends sleeping. It seems like she spends a lot of time sleeping, but I'm not 100% sure. That's a good question. I'd have to look into that a little bit more. What I'm going to do now, so we can watch Sammie move around a little bit, is put her over in an area where I've got some things where she can explore her environment. So let's move over to that spot. And I'm gonna turn the video camera around here. Okay. So I'm gonna put Sammie down. And we can watch her move around a little bit. So we try to give them time outside of their enclosures, outside of their cages, so they can get exercise, they can stretch. We have some amazing volunteers who I know are missing the animals terribly right now. I'm giving them updates that help take care of these animals twice a week, and they also spend a lot of time taking our animals out and giving them exercise. So that is what we're doing right now. We try to do this with most of our animals to give them some exercise. So you can see her using those muscles to help her move around. Oh, she's going inside her log. She likes to go inside of logs. Let's see. Oh, she may have stopped. And as I mentioned earlier, she does not have legs. I'm going to see if I can get a little bit closer to her as she's moving around here. You see her flicking out her tongue, and that is so she can check out her environment here and help her figure out what's going on. Come up a little bit here. Oh, sorry, the phone is ringing at the Nature Center. I'm the only one here, so I will listen to the voicemail after we get off this live stream. How many pounds does she weigh? Sammie's not even a pound. Sammie is quite light. She's not a very big snake. Oh yay, is she gonna go in this tube? This tube is a new tube for her, so I wasn't sure if she was gonna go in it or not, but we thought we would give her the chance to explore it. Let's see, come back around here. There we go. So somebody asked if there are poisonous snakes in Michigan. There are venomous snakes in Michigan. We call them venomous instead of poisonous because poison is something that you ingest, whereas venom is something that is put into the skin. We have one venomous snake here in Michigan. Where are you going, Sammie? You're not going to climb up my leg. That's what it looks like she's doing. I keep backing up here and she's coming towards me. So we do have one venomous snake here in Michigan, and it's called the Massasauga rattlesnake. Sammie, I'm going to have to turn you around. She's coming towards my shoe. Checking me out. All right, I'm going to move her back here towards this area. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. So we do have the one venomous snake here in Michigan called the Massasauga rattlesnake. And you don't want to be bit by it, that's for sure. They're not very common and they're very shy. Looks like she's going to go over the tube instead of in the tube. So the Massasauga rattlesnakes are very shy. They like to live in upland grassland area during the summer months, and they'll live in wetter areas when they are hibernating. Oh, she wants to go check out the offices. We're not going to go that way, okay? Here we go. Looks like she's really getting a lot out of exploring today. So in the venomous snake that we have here in Michigan, the Massasauga rattlesnake is a species of special concern because their habitat is being destroyed. Like I said, they like upland grassland habitat. And because people, you know, a lot of people obviously are afraid of venomous snakes, so they will kill them. Like I mentioned a minute ago, it is against the law to shoot a snake here in Michigan. Where are you going, Sammie? Are you going to turn around? Let's see if I can get closer down here. She's going to come check out the camera. I'm pulling the camera away from her and she's coming towards it. She's very curious. Alright, Sammie, you're getting too close here. Alright, I'm going to turn her back around. She's going away from her exercise area here. There we go. Let's see. Do snakes go out at night? Yes, they do. There are different kinds of snakes, and you might see them at night. They're more active during the day because, especially because they like the heat from the sun, since they're reptiles. So you're not as likely to see a snake, at least here in Michigan, out at night. But they might wake up during the night. Creepy. So I see somebody says creepy. And they are a little bit different. You know, I think a lot of people are afraid of snakes because they're very different from us. They kind of slither, like you see here, because they don't have legs like we do. Which doesn't mean that they're necessarily all that bad. They just move differently from us. But it does tend to creep people out. But again, they're not that bad. They're actually very important. Like I said earlier, they eat things like rodents. They'll eat things like bugs. We feed Sammie worms. They will also eat things like frogs and toads. Although we do not feed our frogs and toads here to Sammie. Let's see. Are there any other questions? Oh, she's going outside of her exercise area again here. It's really neat to watch her move. You can see her using those muscles. Remember, she has 200 to 400 pairs of ribs along that spine that help her move like that. She's coming towards me again. Oh, there she goes. All right, I'm going to put her back here one more time. We'll put her back into the play area. The exercise area. Oh, she looks like she is done with it. She is on the move now. Okay. Do I have any other questions? I think she's done with her exercise area. So I'm going to pick her back up. And we're going to come back over. Let's see, I'll switch the camera around. Okay. She's getting a little active. All right, let me set the camera back up here. Hopefully that doesn't fall. All right, we're back. You can see her play area behind me. All right, well, if you have any other questions, please feel free to post them here. I hope you enjoyed watching Sammie explore her exercise area. A few things I want to share with you. Remember, I said we have been saying that a lot of people don't like snakes, and you know, completely get it. They're very different from us. Yes, she is very curious. Bring her back up here towards the camera again. She's very active right now too. So some things you can do to help snakes is just, you know, like a lot of other animals, learn about them. So that way you can share with others what you have learned. More knowledge is more power. So, you know, it's important to learn about them, share with others what you know. Also learn about the federal and state laws that there are out there to protect these animals. Like I said earlier, it is against the law here in Michigan to shoot a snake, so they are protected. And it's also against the law to bring one in from the wild as a pet, so you have to have special permits. So we have special permits from the government that allow us to have these animals to help educate people. Another thing you can do is create snake habitat. So something you can do is, you know, they do like brush piles. You want to be careful in doing that because, of course, brush piles can attract other things like rodents, and if you already have a problem with that around your house, you might not want to do that. But brush piles are actually great for wildlife. Birds, ground birds like brush piles, toads, frogs, snakes, a lot of things love brush piles. So that's something that you can do for them, to give them a good habitat. And then don't take them home as pets. As I mentioned, it is against the law to take them home as pets, so don't take them home as pets. And another thing that we talked about on Tuesday when you met the rats is don't use pesticides and don't use rodenticides to kill things like rats or bugs, because when predators like Sammie here eat those poisoned rodents or bugs, it can make them very sick, and then they can die. And then whatever eats Sammie could also get sick and die. So it's very important to not use those kind of things to control things around your house. Use other methods. So that's something very important you can do to help these guys. So I think we're going to check out. Sammie, I think, is getting hungry. It's time for me to feed them. That might be why she was moving around so much there at the end, because she was thinking that she wants some food. Oh, I see. What are brush piles? Brush piles are, you know, like you can stack twigs and branches on top of each other. You know, out in nature when things fall, sometimes they fall on top of each other. The leaves collect on top, and so that creates kind of like a brush pile. Well, if you have sticks and leaves around your house that you don't mind leaving on your property, you can kind of pile them up, and that gives animals that like protection, some protection to go under or to sit on top of. Chipmunks like brush piles, so that's what a brush pile is. Is it safe to pick up a garter snake outside? Like I mentioned earlier, I always say that anything that has a mouth and has teeth can bite. So garter snakes can bite. They're not terribly aggressive, but they might bite you. And granted, their bite's not going to do too much because they have a very small mouth. But even with that said, anything that goes into your skin and breaks your skin can get infected, especially when it's coming from a wild animal. So if you get bit, it's just very important that you clean it really, really well, as fast as you can. I've known some naturalists who got really excited about picking up a big snake and didn't quite clean their wounds as well, and it got infected. So that's just something to keep in mind. And you know, you want to explore your environment, but also think about how it's impacting the animal as well. Sometimes it's better to just watch them from a distance and see what they do, especially if you're not so sure how to pick that animal up without hurting them and without making them uncomfortable. All right, well, thank you again for being with us today. Again, the trails are open. It's a beautiful day outside. So, you know, make sure you practice social distancing, but we recommend that you get outside, explore the trails a little bit if it's not too busy out there. The building is closed. Right now we'll be reopening April 30th, depending on how the situation progresses. If you have any other comments, please feel free, or questions, please feel free to put them in the comments here, and I'm going to hopefully get around to answering all these questions sometime in the next couple days. I'm here very limitedly now as I'm taking care of the animals. And also this video will be available on Facebook later, and you can also go to our website where we're going to be posting all of these videos to watch. And we hope you enjoyed this. We'll say bye to Sammie here so she can go get her food. All right. Thank you. Take care. Stay safe. Stay healthy. And we'll see you. Oh, yes, the presentation for Tuesday next week. I'm sorry. So yes, next week I'll be presenting again at 1 o'clock on Tuesday, and we'll be meeting our box turtle, Tara. And I'll tell you a little bit more about turtles and about her. So we'll be meeting her next Tuesday at 1. Thank you for asking. All right. Thank you so much. We'll see you next Tuesday. And take care. Bye.